Welcome to This Sporting Planet, the world's view of sport, this week from the UK, the USA, and Singapore. This is a show that brings together international voices who are passionate about sport and live and work in the regions where major events are taking place. Natalie Sawyer here, alongside Edward Russell and Todd Harris. And the next couple of shows, we're doing something a little bit different. We've had the opportunity to speak to some amazing athletes across the world and experts in specific regions about some of the biggest sports events on the planet.
Yeah, from Olympic and Paralympic medalists to major winners, stars who've lifted the biggest trophies in football to cricketing heroes, we have left no stone unturned to bring you the most interesting perspectives from across the world of sport. A little bit later on, you will hear excerpts from our chats about the driver chaos in F1 at Red Bull Racing. That was with former driver Karun Chandhok, and the dynasty that's being created in women's football at Arsenal in the UK.
But first, something we've spoken a lot about in the last few months is the tennis rivalry between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, which has delivered time and time again. It's got the biggest names in the game talking about it too. Do you remember when Novak Djokovic was full of praise for Carlos Alcaraz? This clip has been viewed over 1 million times on our social channels.
Yes, there was domination, obviously, from Rafa on clay or Roger on grass, me on hard court. Would win, 3-4 years in a row, Indian Wells and Miami back to back. But that also came, for me personally, that level of, dominant tennis and achievements when I was 3-4 years old. And then after that. So between, let's say, 23 and 33 was when it was really happening. And Alcaraz is still not 23. So we have to remember that his age and what he has done for his age is not also normal. And I'm sure that we'll see a lot of him on the big stage with trophies in the future, 10 years, 15 years, as long as he's playing. The competition is always there. I think every generation has its different competition. It's hard to compare eras. The last 20 years was dominated mostly by the four of us. Obviously when the three of my biggest rivals retired, then, you can feel there's a shift, not only in terms of the generations of players that are coming now, all of a sudden, the main focus and attention is on them, but it's just, I guess it takes a little bit of time for people to accept the fact that Roger and Rafa are not playing, and Murray, and I guess one day myself, but I'm still trying to stay there and represent the older guys, the older generation.
Well, a few weeks back before Wimbledon, but after Roland Garros, Natalie discussed tennis' newest rivalry and what's becoming a modern classic with Kate Allman in Australia and Karun Chandhok in India.
We waited and waited and waited to finally get a Grand Slam final between the world number one and world number two. They battled over 5 sets. He saved 3 match points. He was down a break, came back. I don't even understand humanly how they came out of it alive, given the physicality of that. I was in studio getting my blazer back on, saying, okay, we're on in 3 minutes here, and then we're on 2 hours later. That's how good it was. In your mind, Nat, did Sinner lose it mentally, or did Alcaraz just snatch victory from the jaws of defeat like he often does?
Sahel, you're asking the wrong person in that sense, because I'm a massive Carlos Alcaraz fan. So I'm always
on this planet. The
I know
world
we did.
knows it.
It was just incredible. And my biggest takeaway, like you've already mentioned, is how you can perform on a court for over 5 hours, 5.5 hours, and yet look as though it meant it was nothing. It was a breeze in the park for both of them. That neither of them looked exhausted, which if that was me, I barely last 10 minutes on a court. So they were both absolutely fantastic. And what poster boys they are for tennis, in the sense of that pure, incredible, enthralling match that we saw. It was just wonderful. In some ways, you want to say to both of them, you're both the winners, but that's not how it works out, really.
No, I think you're pretty happy to call Carlos Alcaraz a winner. But Kate, did you enjoy that one? Did you
Oh,
stay up for it?
vamos, Alcaraz, vamos. He is unbelievable. Like, he needs his brain donated to science when he eventually passes on, which is no time soon because clearly he can come back from the dead. You know, unbelievable. And the resilience in him, I do think he is mentally on another level to everyone else. And I really do think he's going to take the baton from Rafa. And we've got a new era in the sense of Djokovic is getting older. Rafa and Federer, they're sort of out the door. I reckon this new era is going to be Alcaraz with Sinner, and it's just going to be those two battling it out. And I can't wait for it. It's so fascinating how we get these eras, by the way, of men's tennis players going head to head. You know, Federer, Nadal for more like 2 decades. Djokovic comes in. There's a sort of a three-way, and then it's Rafa and Joker, now Sinner and Alcaraz. And I'm a massive Alcaraz fan too, Nat. So absolutely love to see it. What an absolute thriller.
I suppose, Sahel, what was the most amazing thing about it is the first time they've met in a major final.
Yeah, exactly.
As well. And crikey, they delivered. So if we can have more of the same, we're going to be in for an amazing period for tennis.
Yeah, I think the scary thing is, Nat, that we had, 60 Grand Slams between Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal, the big three, right? You then had that sort of middle phase where you had the Medvedevs, you had Zverevs, you
Yeah.
had the Del Potros, Wawrinkas, all these guys winning a couple here and there. But now you've got actually a big two. I can't see a third in sight. So we
Yeah.
could see the next decade being defined by two players who absolutely dominate the men's tennis game. It's a scary thought, but it's also an unbelievable thought to think this could be the rivalry for the next 10 or 15 years of the sport, which is, if it is, we're in good hands.
He is the prince taking over the throne, and really staked his claim on it, didn't he, with that 5-setter. You've got to be able to come back from the brink to be a star in tennis for a long time. And that's what Djokovic has always been so good at, right? That's why he's been the man for so long. That's why Rafa was very good at taking it from Federer. And now Alcaraz, the ability to come back and never say die, I think is really something that defines tennis. And he's shown that he can do that. So he absolutely has the mettle to be a star. He's going to be playing for another decade at least. He's got a good 15 years in him by the looks of things.
So 5 majors already to such a young career of Carlos Alcaraz. And you wonder if he's thinking long term, if he's thinking, well, look, Novak Djokovic hasn't got to 25 yet. And that's what he wants to get to become the all-time leading major record holder. 20 more to go. It looks conceivable that Carlos Alcaraz can do it. We've had loads of you getting in touch with regards to this one in a variety of languages, from Italian, French, Russian to Mandarin as well. And we picked out a couple. This is from @JVilleBill13. I hope I've said that right. Every time you think a legend is gone, you say we won't see another one for a while. Well, then an Alcaraz comes along. Man, I love tennis and I try to watch his every match. Sinner is amazing, but sometimes Carlos blows my mind. Is Wimbledon here yet? Well, it's not far off, that's for sure.
He is everyone. He is me. That's exactly what I think.
That's so true. And another comment here is from @Metaphors007. I love that one. Absolutely, the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to the tennis world is Djokovic. I mean, he speaks honestly, doesn't he? And we heard there what he had to say about Alcaraz. I mean, is he right? Is Alcaraz not normal?
No, the most beautiful thing ever was Rafael Nadal. Okay, maybe the way that guy speaks is okay, but in terms of beauty, there's no
Not
question.
Pat Cash. Can't believe you're not going to Pat Cash.
Yeah, Pat Cash.
I was going to say Steffi Graf, just to be different here.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, that
Fair enough.
forehand. The
That's
elegance
fair.
of
That's a
Steffi
fair
on court.
call.
Well, I really enjoyed that chat with Kate and Sahel about the Alcaraz-Sinner rivalry, and I don't think it's going to be the last time we'll be discussing it on this sporting planet. Next, I want to rewind to May, because before the Lionesses were creating headlines in Switzerland at Euro 2025, Arsenal were doing the same by claiming their first European trophy in 18 years. Lianne Sanderson was part of that team in 2007, and she helped me analyse how Arsenal beat Barcelona in that final and what impact it will have beyond the football pitch.
I mean, it was amazing, really. I mean, there was a video of me because everyone was taking videos, but I just felt overwhelmed of emotion. like in the sense that like it was like I feel like my career came full circle. Like my manager was in the crowd, Vic Akers, that I won it with, and he found me when I was 9 years old in Southeast London. So there was a lot of like, it was like my career was like flashing before my eyes. And I've said it many, many times, but when England won the Euros, I felt pride. I felt emotional based upon the fact that like we played against Germany 10 years before that and we got battered in the final of the Euros in Finland. So I felt this element of pride, but I didn't really feel part of it because of like England and the FA and how I kind of felt like how they made me feel over the years. Whereas with Arsenal, because they make me feel part of the club, you know, our pictures outside the Emirates alongside the Invincibles, they always keep me around, you know, with whether it be with the men's team, the women's team. So I just felt like this real amount of pride and just like, it was almost like I got closure on my career, as crazy as that sounds, because there's a lot of people still at the club that worked there when I was there. And Gary Lewin, like, he was one of the first people I hugged after the game. And that guy is like a legend. I've known him for years. Like, he's been at that football club even since before I was born, you know, and he still looks the same. So, you know, and it was great to see people like that just like love the club. And the fact that Arsenal did it again, and we did it in 2007, and like no one thought it was going to be Arsenal, did they? They thought it was going to be Chelsea.
Let's talk about how Arsenal did it then on the day in Lisbon, because I think the last time we spoke when we were looking ahead to this, I think most people thought Barcelona, as my dog appears as usual on the podcast, most people thought Barcelona would get the job done. So how did Arsenal do this?
I mean, let's be honest, like Arsenal are the champions of Europe, but Barcelona is still the best team in the world. Like, they're my favourite team to watch. They're incredible. And I think they've kind of got forgotten about since Arsenal won it. So I want to give them their accolades, because people keep saying, oh, you know, they didn't play well on the day. Like, they completely dominated possession. Arsenal defended. It was a defensive masterclass from Leah Williamson, Steph Catley. The whole back five were incredible. And I think Barcelona haven't really played against Arsenal. So it was almost like against Chelsea, people can say, oh, you know, Chelsea got beat. How does that even work? Chelsea got beat 8-2 on aggregate over 2 legs. They win their 6th consecutive WSL title. And then Arsenal, it's a final. Anything can happen. So for me, defensively, Arsenal were unbelievable. There was no attack. Like, Alessia Russo was getting no service. But Tony Duggan did say to me during the game, because I was getting all nervous, and she said to me, don't worry, they're going to win this. And I'm thinking, what's she seeing? Because I just couldn't see it. Because we just couldn't get the ball. We were chasing and defending. But there was moments in the game. There was a tackle that Caitlin Ford did in the first half, which got everybody kind of going. Then there was like Daphne Domsalar made some really good saves. So there were certain turning points. But Renee Sleger's bringing on Beth Mead and Stina Blackstenius in that moment. But also, if this was a year ago, I think Alessia Russo would have been a player that came off. Jonas Seideval, that's how we managed the Arsenal team, like for like. Whereas Renee like left all the attackers on, brought Beth Mead on, everybody was on, and it was just brilliant. And Beth's assist, I think, has gone under the radar a little bit because it was a brilliant ball, made it look simple. But the ball from Marina Caldente as well to Beth Mead was also brilliant, because she makes football look easy. So I think, you know, Arsenal held on for dear life in the end, but absolutely 100% deserved it. And again, I felt for Barcelona at the end of the game, but like, it was just unbelievable. Like, I don't think any of the players, when we interviewed Stina Blackstenius after the game, I know she doesn't like that, similar to Kim Little, doesn't really like interviews and stuff, but like, you could just tell she was just so shocked. Like, I'm sure they believed they could win, because they've done it against Real Madrid. They've done it against Lyon, where they've like come from behind in the second leg, whereas this was one game. And Bonmati had a chance in the first 2 minutes where she cut it inside, and I was thinking, oh, here we go, waiting for the net to ripple. You know, the game will be over in the first 20 minutes. Barcelona, and then there was this tackle, and you just think, yes, like, they've got this.
Interesting when you mentioned that the tactics then from Renee Sleger, with, as you say, keeping Alessia Russo on the pitch as well. How much credit does she deserve, and how much more success do you think she can bring to Arsenal?
Oh, she's just amazing. Like, I can't even speak highly enough of her. I think I said it on the show before. Like, she was actually at the Arsenal Academy when I was in the first team. I think we're a similar age by about a year. And like, I think she just gets it. And from what the players say, I mean, when someone's managing you and you're doing well, you're never going to say, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. But I think what I see is like a facilitator that doesn't overcoach. And he's a good person, he's a good communicator, he's fair. And I think that's what's been missing from the women's game for a long time, where, you know, there's this whole, you can tell when someone swallowed the coaching manual. And as players, you don't want that. You just need someone to kind of tell you, be honest, why you're not playing or what you're doing well. But at the same time, I think Renee, the players like her. And I think she's, from what I've gathered and from what the players have said in interviews and from what they've told me, she's just composed, calm, you know, she's not a shouter. but the players say she's fair, and you can see that. Vic was like that with us. You know, we had the best players. We didn't need someone to tactically do all this and that and the other and XG and all that type of stuff. It's like, what do I need to do to be at my absolute best? And I think Renee does that in an incredible way. And, you know, she lost her voice after the game at the parade. Like, I mean, what a turnaround. Like, beginning of the season, they got battered by Bayern Munich, lose to Real Madrid, and then now they're in the final, like, and then win. Like, what?
Women's football is on such a high right now, isn't it? And check out our last couple of regular episodes where we discussed England's win at Euro 2025 to do something no England side has ever done: win a trophy on foreign soil. Now, next, I want to discuss something very close to my heart, and that is Formula One. Earlier this year, Red Bull looked to be in absolute chaos, and this was even before team principal Christian Horner was sacked in July. It came after they dropped new driver Liam Lawson after just 2 races in favor of second-team driver Yuki Tsunoda. We wanted to find out what it was like being in the Red Bull driver program from someone who's been there himself. Karun Chandhok raced for HRT and Lotus in F1, and he now travels the world covering the sport. He joined myself, his brother Suhail, and Todd for a chat.
We've been talking about Formula One. We're not easing into this season, are we? 2 races in, so much has happened already. Chief amongst them, Liam Lawson's demotion, Yuki Tsunoda going up. What do you make about that whole decision? Because it was only a few months ago that Tsunoda was overlooked for that seat. Now Lawson's been moved down, and Yuki's suddenly the man to take over.
Yeah, to be honest, the whole thing is just messy. I'm a bit disappointed with the way it's been handled in some ways, but also in the way it's turned out for Liam, because I really thought over the winter that he was the right choice for the team over Yuki, if I'm honest. I think last year they were kind of equal, but in the end, I thought he was an equal for Yuki, having only done 11 races and Yuki having done 4 years. So his trajectory was clearly on the up. I think what's clear is that the way that these rookies and these young drivers are being prepared to move into the top Red Bull seat, whether it's, you rewind a bit, Albon, Gasly, Daniel Kvyat before that, and Liam, it's clearly not enough in the same way that, for example, Mercedes have prepared Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli's done 10,000 kilometers of testing. They've taken, an older car all around the world to multiple circuits for him to get experience and get confidence. Liam's just been dropped into it with a day and a half of testing with the new car, a little bit of testing with the old car. I think he only got a day at Jerez.
No.
So, I think if I was Red Bull, Yuki's gonna have a chance, and who knows how he'll go. It's a fascinating sort of subplot to the Japanese GP to see how both Yuki and Liam go, to be honest. But I think big picture, Red Bull need to think about how they're preparing these young drivers.
I think that's something I wanted to talk to you about, right? You've sampled being a part of that Red Bull Junior program. Your first test was alongside DC in a Red Bull car. 2 parts. One, where do they go from here with that Red Bull program? You've got an Isaac Hadjar in there, but obviously the shuffling. And 2, how much pressure is there when you're part of a program like that?
There's pressure in every program. I think the difference with the Red Bull program is they're not opposed to chopping and changing middle of the season, whereas others tend to wait till the end of the year. But honestly, F1's not a finishing school. F1's not a place where you have to arrive as the finished product. You're there to be one of the 20 best drivers in the world. You're not there to listen and learn. You get a little bit of a grace period where you're allowed to be maybe 3-4 tenths off your teammate for a few races, but that's it. You can't be half a second off in F1. It just doesn't work. You've got to be 2-3 tenths. So the pressure is on all of them. The pressure to perform is on all of them. I think the only difference is Red Bull are a bit more brutal mid-season, but ultimately, they're investing a lot of money and they expect results. But I think what they have to be fair to these guys about is preparing them in the right way, because what is clear is that the main Red Bull team, the car is tricky to drive. Multiple drivers, as I said, have come through it, and they've gone on to do good things. Albon's doing an amazing job at Williams. Gasly's doing a great job at Alpine. Even Perez was doing a great job at Force India. before. And who knows how Liam will do now in the Racing Bulls. So I think as I said, there's a big picture, two things to consider. One is, do they have to make the car easier to drive? But that's a tougher one to answer, because if you make a car easier to drive, typically you also make it slower, and you don't want to make Max Verstappen slower. He's your number one top dog.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very tough position they've got themselves into.
Yeah, it's interesting that Mario and Reddy talked about how Lawson's chopping now has sort of put Sergio Perez in good light for Cadillac, and we'll go into all of that when 2026 rolls around. But on the positive side of things, someone that's come in straight up with pace, Oscar Piastri, how impressive has he been to you, to everyone in the paddock? Because it just seems like he's got the mental chops to cut it at the highest level.
I think, but if you think of the example I was just saying, rookies can't mess around. They don't have time to dial themselves in. Oscar's an example of that.
Yeah.
He's been like Leclerc, like Max, like Lewis before. He's arrived second race in Saudi Arabia. He was an equal for Lando and out-qualified him. He was there in his rookie season for pace. Needed to gain experience in the races, was struggling with tire wear, corrected a lot of that last season, and he's taken another step up. In China, he was absolutely dominant. And actually, frankly, if you look at the whole season so far, he's had one bad corner when the rain came down in Melbourne. Otherwise, he looked quicker than Lando in the race. He was catching Lando, he's putting pressure on Lando. So really, he got unlucky being on the wrong tires when the rain came down. And he's been outstanding this year. And I'm excited to see. Lando is a super fast driver, no doubt about it. He's exceptionally fast. But we saw in China, he made mistakes in both the qualifying sessions, made a mistake on the opening lap of the sprint. So as the season unfolds, he'll have to stop making those mistakes, because in terms of speed, they're there, but the consistency from both sides. Oscar had some bad weekends last year as well, where he was 4-5 tenths away from Lando. So they both got to find that consistency.
Just tell us a bit about papaya rules, actually, Karun, because if it does...
It's an idiotic name. That's what it is.
Okay, yeah, well, aside from that, if the season does pan out that it is which McLaren driver will win the championship, at what point do they decide to enforce team orders?
I think as long as they're both mathematically in it, and especially if they're both fighting quite close on points, they can't have team orders.
Right.
They've got to have sensible team orders, like don't take each other out and things like that. But for example, we saw with the strategy in a race like Melbourne, when the weather was changing and stuff like that, only one driver could have the right strategy, and they have to give it to the lead car. And Oscar lost out on that occasion with track position. So that's where it starts to get a bit tricky, right? Is who do you have to then, if they're running 1-2, they're running close together strategically, you have to give the lead car the right call. I think that's a fair way to do it. But so McLaren, honestly, if it comes to it, that's a good problem to have. If you have to think about team orders, then you're doing okay.
It was amazing to hear from Karun Chandhok on the Red Bull controversy. And just finally, sticking with F1, I really enjoyed my exclusive chat with Williams driver Alex Albon a few weeks ago. In case you missed it, here it is again, where we discussed what it's been like since Carlos Sainz joined the team, how this season is unfolding, and his hopes for 2025 and beyond.
I mean, changes to the car this year, changes in the garage as well. Carlos Sainz, of course, we know what he's done in Formula One, a verified race winner. How has that been, having him as a teammate? What's that dynamic like?
It's great. Obviously, Carlos has a lot of experience, and that Ferrari knowledge, it really helps just make us think outside the box. I think there's a lot of things where we would test some certain things on the car, philosophies, let's say, that Ferrari had, which work well for us. Some things obviously don't, but we obviously keep the good stuff, and also just to have a driver with so much experience, it feels like we can really work together. Teamwork, strategy, everything seems to be very aligned between the two cars, which has been very helpful.
Both very experienced, but I guess you're more experienced with the team. Do you see yourself as the team leader? Is there one in this team?
No, I wouldn't say there is. I would say we're pretty evenly treated, and we kind of share the same pie in terms of the direction that we're leading the team. I think we're aligned on feedback, which helps a lot. And then at the same time, I think we work well with each other, against each other, let's say, because we have on one side someone like myself who I kind of know the team's inner DNA characteristics. Carlos knows where he wants the car to be. He knows where the weaknesses of our car, maybe even better than I do, because he's obviously come from a good feeling car last year. And so working together, we kind of establish a good balance of exploration and then both of us giving each other advice from our experiences. So we kind of always come in the middle a lot of the time.
Yeah, obviously a lot of changes to come in 2026, but in the interim, have you set yourself any goals for the season, either personally in terms of podiums or something like that, or just in terms of a points tally?
I'm pretty boring when it comes to that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm very much as it goes, be in the moment, focus on kind of what you have in front of you. So I'm just living each weekend as it comes. I feel like the performances are fairly consistent for us as a team. Podium chances, I'm not sure how many more opportunities we will get. I think Imola was quite a nice example of a possible chance. We just have to be there or thereabouts come the time. I think, we've seen races in the past where Brazil speaks out to me, where it was raining, it was dry, crazy races, lots of safety cars. They're the ones realistically where we could score a podium. For now, it's just about optimizing every weekend. And to answer your question, I don't really have a goal. I'm not trying to hold on to anything or look forwards for anything. It's just I guess my goal is to keep maximizing every weekend.
That's a good goal in itself.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. You said you're working on the sim in terms of 2026, which does feel so far away, but there are going to be massive rule changes. How do you see that affecting the entire grid? Do you think it's going to be more of a level playing field?
Unfortunately, I think it might go the opposite way. I think that whenever there's a regulation change, the field spread out quite a lot, as some teams get it right and some teams have to play catch up. We saw in 2022 quite a big difference between the Red Bulls and then everyone else. And I think that unfortunately there's trends in history that show that whenever there's a new regulation, there is a big jump. The good thing for us is we're with a Mercedes power unit, which I think is going to be strong next year. And we've clearly coming from a strong year where the philosophy of our car has changed, but not to a point where we can't carry that over. I think whatever we bring with us from this year into next is going to serve us well. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think the field's going to be very close next year.
Okay, we'll wait and see. I'm here in Singapore, and you are, as it stands, obviously the only Southeast Asian driver on the entire grid. How much pride does that give you, and do you feel like you're representing this region, and in particular Thailand, every time you get in the car?
Yes, 100%. I feel like I say it often, but it feels like when I come to Singapore, it's like my home race. I feel like we're kind of a big family in Southeast Asia, and we look after each other. So it's very special. Every time I come to Singapore, there's a huge feeling of support and love when I go there. It's an amazing track as well, very physical, as you know. But it's a lot of fun. I'll hopefully get out there a little bit earlier this year.
Well, Singapore might be a home race for now, but
that's very
there has been a lot
true.
of talk about a Thai GP coming in the near future. Do you have any inside information on that? And even if you're not willing to share it, what would it mean to you to have a Thai Grand Prix?
Yes, nothing, as you said, that I could most probably share with you, other than it's obviously very serious. I think there's been other talks of other races happening from other countries, but I haven't seen the kind of push that Thailand is doing from other countries. And the Prime Minister was in Monaco, for example, last week. All the representatives of sporting tourism and whatnot were there as well. So it would mean a lot. I would love to have Singapore and Thailand as my home race. I can be quite greedy. Again, if Singapore is hot, I think Thailand's going to be just as humid. It will be interesting. I've seen the layout of the track that they've proposed. It's very interesting. I think it could serve up some good racing, and I'm just fingers crossed. On my side, I will do anything to try and make the Thai GP happen. So let's see in the future, whether we do some road shows or try to attract or get the spotlight within Thailand, because Thailand's not that big into Formula One, but the last year I've seen it grow really quite a lot.
Well, such a revealing chat with F1 driver Alex Albon, and hopefully he'll rejoin the podcast soon. Well, that's all the time we've got for on this, the first of a two-part series looking back on some of our This Sporting Planet best bits.
And just a reminder, This Sporting Planet is so much more than just a podcast. There's a website for you to enjoy at thissportingplanet.com, and we're across all social channels like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube as well. And it's there you can get daily updates from the world of sport and hear from the biggest stars like tennis's Novak Djokovic, Lioness captain Leah Williamson, or Chelsea's Club World Cup winning coach Enzo Maresca. We are the world's view on sport, no matter where it is, no matter which sport, and you're invited to be part of the tribe.
Next time, we will be revisiting our important discussion around mental health in professional sport, as well as looking ahead to two huge Women's World Cups that are just around the corner in both rugby and cricket. We look forward to speaking to you then, but until then, from myself and everyone in the This Sporting Planet team, goodbye for now.